Hi guys, this is Lalana. Thanks for tuning into the Sovereign Path. So today I'm doing another video from my car. This video, this content is potentially somewhat of a trigger warning. So as with some of the videos that I make, I always feel the need to kind of put that out there. So let's talk about manifesting the twin flame and the idea that you can manifest physical union with the divine masculine. You can manifest romantic union with the divine masculine. You can sort of shift the tide of how your union is playing out with the twin, you know, using manifestations such as just assuming that you are that, assuming that I am, you know, already in union, and so therefore I have it because everything has to conform to whatever that assumption is, whatever that belief within me is. And then, you know, I am already that, I am source creation, and so therefore I am deciding that this is what this is, and all of those sort of things. And then, you know, you guys know how this kind of thing goes. So the first thing I want to say is that there are a lot of paths in this, you know, infinite reality that we are experiencing. Source God creation is experiencing itself in myriad of ways, as I've said a lot of times. You know, Source God creation is experiencing itself in billions of ways. There are millions of different types of pathways that Source is taking, that Source is creating, that Source has already written before we stepped into this incarnation. So this video isn't to say that any one path is wrong, that any one path is right for that matter, but it is to say that there are a lot of paths, and a lot of the paths don't necessarily intersect the way that some of the teachings would teach you to think that they do. And that is what it is. But the twin flame path specifically, and if any, you know, you guys have been watching my channel for a while, you'll know I say all the time, this is a spiritual awakening path. That's what it is. That is the purpose of this path. And this path is deemed orchestrated, led, scripted, written before you came into this incarnation by higher self, Source God, who is you, experiencing itself through the avatar of you. And it has been wearing the filter of ego in order to have all of these experiences of separation, the experience of lack, of scarcity, of duality, of all of these things. This is something that you knew before you incarnated into this lifetime that you would be experiencing. You would experience your spiritual awakening. You would experience that you are a twin flame. You would go through this whole thing, including all the stuff that you went through before you actually realized that you were a twin, before you know, were catalyzed and ignited to go through your spiritual awakening. All of that was already being orchestrated, right? All of the path that you're on now is also being completely orchestrated. You know, I say a lot of times, we have tools, I have tools, a lot of people have tools that can assist us through the path so that it makes it feel more gentle, more of a landing place, right? To be understood as we're going through this, to know that you're not alone as you're going through this, to know that you're not crazy, to know that the things that you're experiencing, other twins are also experiencing, to learn mind mastery so that you're not in some just chaotic mess in your head all the time, to learn how to transmute emotion, to learn what energy is, to learn what emotion actually is, and the function and the role that is playing specifically on this path. That being said, there's a reason that you can't manifest the twin, and it's a double-sided reason. The one side is because this is your same energetic blueprint, your same soul signature. There's nothing and no one out there to manifest. And that's so much of what this path is about. is the ego death, the dark night of the soul, right? The ego disillusion, the ego thinking that it is source, right? The ego not knowing that it is the filter through which source is seeing in order to experience separation. But that ego itself doesn't have free will to drive the car on this path, right? It just doesn't. That's not how it works. You're being guided, right? You are source guiding itself through all of this stuff, which is where the phrase comes from, let go and let God, right? This path has you. I've said this so many times, and I know that the ego fights that, the filter fights it, the program fights it. The things that we've been identifying for so long, fight it. That's also part of what we're experiencing. It doesn't mean that it's wrong, doesn't mean you're doing it wrong, doesn't mean you're going down the wrong path. It's still what you have chosen to experience. And so when we're talking about trying to manifest the masculine counterpart, right? We're trying to manifest our physical union, our romantic union with the masculine. We're losing the plot. We've lost the plot. That's not it. If we were able to do that, then ego could remain fully intact, right? The awakening would not actually have to fully land. It would not have to fully, get off the ground, basically. Inner union would not need to be, remembered, embodied. You wouldn't have to come back into that place. Ego death would never happen if you were able to just manifest the twin. This path has a very specific aim, and that aim is a spiritual awakening. In order to have a spiritual awakening, you have to go through the ego death and the ego program and the ego conditioning and all of those things that are telling you that you are separate from the twin, that the twin is separate from you, that they are not your same energetic blueprint, that they are not your same soul signature, all of those things, that there's somebody out there that all you have to do is believe or assume or become the version of you, the identity of you that already has that, right? And so, like I said before, is that, a viable path for some people who are on it? Yes, that's what they came here to experience. It is. It's what they came here to experience. It's what Source is experiencing through those avatars, right? Through those human beings. That's what they're here to do. But the twin flame dynamic is not the same as that. And when we overlap all of these, different spiritual roadworks and we think that it's all one thing, then again, we're like losing the plot. It's the same thing that I hear that people say, oh, well, if everyone is you, then anyone could be your twin flame. But anyone isn't your twin flame because everyone doesn't have your same energetic blueprint. Not everyone is your etheric double. You have one by design, by Source, who has created this entire path that you're working on so that it can see itself, so that it can reflect itself, so that it can learn from itself, from its actual self, right? There's a higher purpose going on here on a twin flame dynamic, and it's not about just manifesting a 3D physical romantic union. This is about having a spiritual awakening with the self, coming back home to the self, coming back home to the remembrance that I am love, that I am sovereign, that I am God's source creation, and not coming from ego trying to create it. Source isn't chasing its own reflection. Source isn't trying to create a 3D romantic physical union with the twin. Your higher self is not doing that. The higher self is not out there trying to manifest the twin back into its life. This is you. You can't manifest yourself. You can't manifest your same foot, your same hand, your left ear. It is you. This is you. And this is the illusion that we are facing that is creating the ego to collapse. That there's a whole reason, there's a grander purpose here of why the masculine is pulling away. It creates ego death, right? It creates the awakening. It has a singular aim and a singular purpose, which is going to bring you out of the suffering that ego has running round and round and round, thinking that it needs to create physical union, and that if it doesn't create it, then that means that you have a limited belief. It doesn't mean that you have a limited belief. It means that the path that you are walking is not being led by ego. It's not being led by ego. It's ego that has a limited belief because it cannot see beyond what it sees. So it sees everything in the 3D, right? This path is saying you have to trust the 5D. You have to trust the energy. You have to trust what's coming through you. You have signs everywhere flooding you if you are on a true twin flame path. They are relentless. They don't leave you alone, right? And when you're seeing this all the time, when you're feeling the energy flooding you constantly, it's source, God, creation showing you, this is what we're doing. This is who we are. This is the experience that we're having. Release the ego identification of the false self and the illusion that there's something outside of you, i.e. the physical masculine, that you need to somehow pull back into your reality. This is the issue. As soon as you release this belief system, it all dissolves. It dissolves, and you can feel the masculine within you. They never went anywhere. They never went anywhere, right? I know that that's a hard one to grasp, especially if you're just beginning on this path. Like, I get it. It's just that there's so many paradoxes on this path. Like, it's overwhelming how many paradoxes are on this path, and how the mind and the ego try to play all of these games in order to, like, circumvent what this path actually is, which is ego dissolution, right? It's the dissolving of the program. It's the dissolving of the control mechanism. And so things like manifesting the twin, they are very, they sound great to the ego aspects of us. They sound great to the parts of us who don't want to let go, who don't want to surrender, who don't want to trust, and all of those sort of things, because we're afraid to. Like, it's valid. I get that. And I get that thinking that, like, manifestation is an easier way through this would very appealing. I get that too. But it's the reason that it always backfires. It's the reason that you can manifest a boat, but you can't manifest the physical aspect of the twin. You can't. Because that boat is not your same energetic blueprint coming here to awaken itself out of the illusion that ego is driving the car. Right? It has a very specific aim. It has a very specific aim, right? The boat is the boat, the car, the house, whatever else. That's source having fun, seeing the things that it can do because it knows that it can do them. But that has nothing to do with a spiritual awakening. The spiritual awakening is the reason that you cannot manifest the physical romantic union with the twin, is because the spiritual awakening is the absolute purpose of why we came into this incarnation to do this, right? That's why. And so when we're trying to use, like, these 5D mechanisms and we're placing them on top of, the 3D game, it's why it just doesn't work like that. It starts to just sort of backfire. And when you're trying to manifest the essence of what you already are, this creates more separation and lack and scarcity within the one energetic field, which does push. It does push, because now you're moving from the ecosystem of saying, well, I just have to become it or believe it harder or, identify as it, which is still the ego trying to be something. And that's the biggest thing, is that ego death is, you can't avoid it during an awakening. You can't avoid it. It's an integral part of the awakening. And so when we're trying to assume that I am the identity that has this thing, then that's ego trying to assume that yet it is playing another character. It's playing another role. It's got another job to do, right? It has more stuff to do. And so it's like, let me climb up another mountain and be this other version of myself who already has this thing. And again, it's always going to circumvent itself back onto you. Over and over, it'll come back to you, because that's just not the way. That's not what's happening. And the ego doesn't have free will to choose that. It doesn't. I mean, that's the illusion. That's part of the 3D game, right? You are the higher self streaming straight through you. And the higher self is the one who is driving the car. It's driving the ship. And the more the separated parts of you think that it's driving the ship, the more suffering we feel, right? The harder this becomes, the longer it takes, all of those sort of things. But This is you and you. This is a you and you thing. And when you are grounded and anchored and embodied in inner union, you won't be looking to try to manifest anything outside of yourself, because all of the separation and the duality will have collapsed. And that is the purpose here. We're collapsing that illusory state of thinking that I have to manifest things that are outside of me in order to like create some sort of reality that will make me happy or whatever else. And i.e. the twin flame divine masculine, that all I really have to do is manifest this thing into physical union. And if I don't believe that I can't do that, then somehow that's a limiting belief. That's ego think. It's really, really running the show here. It's thinking I am source and therefore I am creating everything. The thing is that you are source, and source is creating everything, but source is not the ego limited belief that's creating anymore. I hope that that makes sense. And so if you really believe that you are source and you are creation, which you are, then that means you need to let go of the steering wheel of the false aspect of you that is trying to tell you that somehow you're limited by, you know, not being able to manifest this one thing, and that you can short circuit this spiritual awakening by, you know, achieving that goal of having them. And so the thing is that even if you could do that, which you can't, it'll always backfire on you. But even if you could, you would be running the same damn programs with the physical masculine. It wouldn't work anyway, right? So it's like there's no angle that you can actually take on this thing that would actually play out in the way that you would want it to play out. The program would still be there. The conditioning is still there. And then we can say, well, I can assume my way out of the program, right? I can become a version of me that's not running abandonment and all of those sort of things. But still, it's the ego trying to circumvent its own annihilation, right? It's source trying to not take the filter of ego off. And that's why the higher self is pushing so hard. That's why the masculine is continually reflecting back to you and reflecting back to you. Remember who you are. Remember who you are. There is no separation. This is one energetic field. It's why you feel the masculine around you all the time, right? It's why I hear people in my coaching being like, it's like having an invisible boyfriend. It's like he's like constantly here. She's constantly here. Like I can't shake it. What's the deal? It's your etheric double. It's one energetic system showing you that it's you, that it's within you, that it's never not been within you. It's trying to collapse the duality, right? It's showing you every single day. I hear people say that on my calls every day. How do I shake this? It's driving me crazy. You can't shake what you are, just like you cannot manifest what you are. It doesn't work like that. Surrender to this path, guys. Surrender to the awakening, right? Surrender to it. Allow the ego death to come through, right? Let go and let God, because that is what is driving the car. It's what's always been driving the car. As soon as you do that, you will be amazed when you actually let go how this thing completely flips itself around. But if we're still searching outside of ourselves and we're still trying to manifest and we're still hoping that they're going to come back, and as soon as I get to this thing, then that's going to change, you know, whatever else in the 3D world because I believed harder or I assumed more or, you know, all of those sort of things, it's just going to backfire. It doesn't work, right? This is the spiritual awakening trying to reach you, trying to come straight through you. And ego does a really good job at stomping and fussing and, you know, continually trying to take the steering wheel. It's very empowering, you know, for the false self to do that. It feels like it's in control. It feels like now I don't have to surrender. You know, I don't really have to do any of those things because I can just manifest my way through this. And this is why you hear other coaches say you cannot manifest your twin, and if you try to do that, you're going to push them away because it's just one energetic field. It's like source doesn't chase itself, as I said before. The higher self is not chasing itself. It's not trying to manifest itself. It's not trying to create 3D romantic union with itself. It's not trying to do any of this stuff. This entire path has already been laid out before you came in this incarnation to experience it, And that's where the surrender comes in. You have to trust the truth that you are the higher self guiding you and orchestrating you all the time. That's what's happening, right? The higher self isn't driving you to a cliff and letting you hang off of it, right? It's awakening you out of all of these illusory, areas and all of this, all of the things that are creating within you what your ego is trying to manipulate its way out of. So hopefully that makes sense, guys. I love you all, and I hope you have a beautiful day.